Association and the South Dakota Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
I perform for our high school choir director, who taught me to breathe from the diaphragm and sing from the heart.
Speech, debate, theater, music. The performing arts teach valuable life lessons that typically aren't taught in the classroom. They help high school students learn leadership skills that prepare them to enjoy more satisfying, productive lives.
Hey, I've got a question for you. Who will you perform for?
This message presented by South Dakota High School Activities and the high school in your community. There's just one place where students are students first, and athletics are played with purpose and perspective. There's just one place where a team is more than a group of individual agendas. It's a catalyst for demonstrating the potential of the collaborative spirit. There's just one place where players, coaches, and fans experience the exhilaration that happens when an entire community rallies behind the school team. That place is your local high school. High school sports offer more than the joy of competition. Studies show that student athletes are more likely to enjoy greater levels of achievement in other areas of their lives, including academics. In addition, high school sports help young people in South Dakota develop the discipline and confidence they need to be leaders in life, even as they unite communities like nothing else. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the South Dakota High School Activities Association and the South Dakota Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
The South Dakota High School Activities Association Board of Directors meeting is currently in recess or executive session. Please stand by for continued live audio coverage.
Who do I play for? I play high school basketball for every baller who ever played a pickup game on a driveway, playground, or alley, because we all share the same dream. I play for buzzer beaters, big-time boards, and burying rainmakers. I play high school basketball for the chance to put my hometown in South Dakota on the map by playing in a state championship.
Only 0.5% of all high school student athletes play basketball in college, but all 100% of them become adults. That's why playing basketball on their high school team is so important. High school athletes learn life lessons that help them grow up, lessons that can't be taught in the classroom and often aren't taught at home.
I play high school basketball because I love performing in front of a capacity crowd in my hometown gym.
This message presented by the South Dakota High School Activities Association and the South Dakota Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. They are role models and educators. Their work requires a great deal of time and energy for very little pay. Who are these unsung heroes?
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
The simple truth about education-based athletics in South Dakota is this: without a committed team of coaches and administrators, it just wouldn't be possible. School sports, they bring out the best in all of us. This message presented by the South Dakota High School Activities Association and the South Dakota Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
If an individual student athlete or team wins a high school state championship, it's an amazing thing.
And it goes in! It goes in!
It's also just the icing on the cake. That's because young people in South Dakota who participate in education-based athletics are already winners. Studies show that win or lose, participation helps to impart skills they can use to enjoy greater success in other areas of their lives. School sports teach the benefits of teamwork, the value of self-motivation.
Class. We need to find out what you call it.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Take 5.
Yeah, 5. Yeah. Okay, we're good to go.
Okay. We'll start rolling again. We're still on the track, correct?
I was finished with track. We were commenting, but I'd just like to thank everybody for listening in for that football change on scheduling.
Yeah.
Just kidding, just kidding.
A good one.
Dan was talking about unified relay. Maybe you want to
Yeah, so we were going through the proposals. The one was to add a unified 4x100 relay as a non-sport event in 2028. If you're not familiar with what unified sports is, It's a mixture of students with cognitive disabilities and students without cognitive disabilities. So 4x100 unified relay would be two students with cognitive disabilities, 2 students without. Casey's been doing this at the Howard Wood for a number of years. It's grown in popularity. It's a great thing for the kids. It'd be done through their schools. It's not done through the Special Olympics themselves. It'd be a non-scored event, but we'd be looking at starting this in 28, maybe 27, if we're able to get everything together and start it and do a pilot program type of thing for it. I know Steve Moore at Roosevelt has done a lot with unified sports there. I think it's a great program, and hopefully it's something we can look into doing.
That's great. How do you determine who gets to participate? Like, is there like a criteria? Or
we would have
the Special Olympics programs within their school sort of make those determinations. Yeah.
Awesome.
We talked about that with them the other day at our meeting. So
then if there'd be like a top 16 or however that would be, they would run during the school year in some kind of race, and then bring it to the, there could be prelims or could it be straight finals. Just depends on how we want to move forward and how we look at it.
Go ahead. No, you finish.
I just have one more question about track and cross country advisory, and if I know Randy alluded to the awards ceremony at state cross country. Is that something that has to go through advisory? Is that something the board can?
No, we can that's more of a
talk about
management thing. I know we got some feedback on the order of the awards. We finished with the Class B race and then started the awards with Class B, and there were some kids that kind of had to rush over. Mm-hmm. And then, the length of the award ceremony itself, it takes about an hour and a half. I know there's people who have talked about, can we run both the Class Bs and then do their ceremony, and then, or both of one class, do that class's ceremony. We'd be fine with that. The coaches themselves have not wanted their girls and boys to run back to back because they have problems getting back and forth across it. We did that COVID fall of 2020. That's how we did state cross country. We ran girls and boys in one class, did their awards ceremony, got folks out of there, then brought another class in. And
wasn't that mentioned about alleviating the parking possibly too? Like
that could help with parking, yes.
In visiting with my coach, he said even if there was a 15 to 20 minute break in between genders, that would help, if there was a kid that was hurt or they needed time to visit with the
and moving forward with cross country, there's a rotation on how we run the meet by class. So if we don't change it to something like Dan was saying, we would then award it in the same order. So if a AA started it that morning, that's who we'd award first and go in that order, and that would alleviate some of those issues. That same issue comes up in track with how we're always doing B, A, and then AA, and so some of the coaches are wondering if we could switch that up too. So we're going to look at possibly doing that as well, rather than comes down to the last event. We're waiting on results to get all that information in. Sometimes we're waiting on field events to get in. So the less time we can keep everybody there, if possible, is what we look at, and then we just kind of rotate that down. Maybe we'll have to look at rotating those classes as well at track. That way it allows AA to be recognized, because what happens is almost everybody's gone. The AA is getting their team stuff and kind of rotating that through.
What's that process for bringing that proposal change forward?
I think bringing it to track and cross country advisory is the best way to do that. We talked about it, not necessarily
just changing the order and how we do the award ceremony. We don't need a proposal for that, but if we're going to group them together and do by
there's
class,
going to be a big change in like that,
and we're doing awards after each class, then that's probably something we need to walk through with them. But it's not really that's still sort of a management thing. It might be something that the board can just take action on to get feedback from schools. Because right now we'd be 2 years away from implementing that if we wanted to do it, just because of how that advisory falls.
My comment was going to be on the recording or note taking. when I turned around and the first thing I saw was that Tim Casper died.
Just at the same
I was a little. Oh, motion Tim Casper died for Atlantic. Abbreviation with the M. I didn't quite pick up on that.
Put a tab in there.
I said the same thing to him.
I think he's. And even Jeremy didn't have his first name, so it wasn't quite as.
Official?
Yeah, it seemed a little more.
I said he must have really had a lot of emphasis on that proposal.
Yeah, he was pretty upset.
They did not want me to leave in that meeting.
Good.
I saw that too. I was like, what?
Soccer. No one died at this one.
Thankfully.
This was on October 29th. We had one proposal that came forward, the addition of a third, fourth place game on championship weekend. That was brought forward last year. They wanted it brought again forward this year. We talked about, some of the issues that came up of why that didn't pass, budgets, whether we needed that third, fourth place game. They talked about whether it needed to be held at that facility, if it's even on that day, or if it's on maybe Friday, those kind of things. So they wanted it brought forward again. The other thing that was brought forward that they want us just to take a look at, to talk to the ADs, is the reclassification from 2 classes to 3 classes. And so we laid that out. We're going to wait till we have the numbers from this year's, and then I'll put that into a chart, bring that to the ADs to look at. Nothing moving forward with that yet. They just wanted to see how that would shake out and who would be in what division. So that was just some comments that we made with soccer. Officials are still requesting to play more games on Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. With the lack of officials, and look at starting games maybe at 5 and 7 and 6 and 8 when possible, just because it's hard for them to get off work to make those. So those are some of the issues that they had coming forward out of soccer. Just as a reminder, anybody who's out there too, all these minutes after the meetings take place, we post the minutes of the meetings online under advisory, and you can go ahead and look at those at any time and pull those up. And if you have questions, you can definitely contact us. Anything on soccer?
How many total teams are there in
Right now?
soccer? I'm thinking of the 3-class idea.
All of those A.
Sure.
So it wouldn't change anything for A. You'd basically be splitting double A in half.
And those are the current enrollments for those on there right now. From what they proposed. Like I said, this is not moving forward for a vote or anything. This is just bring to the ADs to see what their concerns would be with it and where that would lie.
Everything done.
My biggest concern would be Class A, especially on the girls' side. Well, it doesn't really change anything, but right now, you can see 4 of these teams over in Class A are boys only. Okay, so there's 1, 2, right now, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that right?
Yep.
7 girls A soccer teams. So, and if we're doing something there'd be 6 in the way that this was set up. And some of these teams are co-ed, like the Hot Springs boys is co-ed, James Valley, or the Parker, or the Freeman, that's co-ed. There's girls that play because they don't have a girls team for soccer, so there's girls that play on that team. But the girls' numbers in Class A are very small already.
was the proposal to just change boys divisions or all?
No, it was be both.
Okay.
But it didn't go through as a proposal. It went through as have a discussion about it with the ADs.
Okay.
Softball, you ready for that?
Yep.
We met in the middle of September for the softball advisory. We had no formal proposals that came out of that meeting. The group feels like that we're doing a good job of growing softball in our state, and with that in mind, there may be some changes that would need to be made down the road, but they feel like we're still gaining some traction there and trying to get more schools involved. So there was discussion on the future sites for the state tournament, and our office would continue to look at that. Feedback from Class B teams is more and more of those teams are playing on turf fields during the season, and so for them to do that at the state tournament would be an okay thing. So they also asked if it could be rotated around as far as where that state tournament is held. So we are continuing to look at other sites that have stadium settings and have turf fields that would be able to accommodate our tournaments. So that's where we're at moving forward with those softball sites. Questions on softball? I also had tennis advisory on October 29th. We did have 2 formal proposals that came out of that meeting. The first was to increase the warm-up time at the state tournament. Right now, it's 5 minutes in our handbook, in our guidelines, and the wording would be players would have a warm-up period not to exceed 10 minutes. So they're asking for more time there. The second proposal moved forward from the group was a request for the board of directors to consider increasing the number of team awards for Class AA. Right now it is 4. They would like the board to consider making that 5. In Class A we have 11 teams, and in Class AA we have 14 teams for tennis. And so they're asking for that to be looked at just for Class AA. That was a proposal last year, and they're trying again and wording it to ask you folks to consider that. There was some discussion about classification, again, understanding that that is not necessarily the advisory's job, but they have talked about in Class AA that many would like to see there be 16 teams in that division. Many of the coaches feel like it would just be smoother with 16 teams with the bracket, and so there was some discussion on that. And then the other thing was the Class A had asked about rotating the tournament. Right now Class A plays on Monday, Tuesday, and Class AA plays on Thursday, Friday, and could that be rotated? And so for the next 2-year cycle, we talked about it would remain the same, but to really look at that, the possibility in the future, in the next cycle, to try to make that happen. I think the concern there, for the Class A, they feel like their students play on that Monday, Tuesday, and then they drive home and they go to school the rest of the week and so forth. So I think that's where that's coming from. Any questions on tennis?
Are there any other team awards that are at 5? Or is it 4 and 6?
It's usually it's 4, 6, or 8. Or 2. Soccer. And soccer, yeah. But we don't have any others where it's an odd number.
Yeah, that's right. And what's the cutoff in between classes right now? 14 and 11.
It's 14 and 11.
It's total number. It's not an
ADM cut.
Okay.
We cut it in half.
So we could say 16 then.
Yeah, we cut it in half right now, and then O'Gorman moves up, so that's why it's not 13 and 12, it's 14 and That's where we get to that number.
Dr. Soros, this is also something the board just can decide in terms of how many awards are given out. It's not.
Yeah, they approve that every August.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think they wanted it worded this way, that they're just requesting that you folks look at that. And I think that was
The questions on tennis? Okay. Native American Advisory Committee. We meet annually with them. There wasn't any proposals that came through with this. We talk about the advisory council positions. We'll have to fill the superintendent spot. That's been Silas Blaine for the last 2 cycles on the advisory with it. This one's a little different than our other ones where we have a legislative liaison, we have an ad hoc member, we have a community liaison. Those are kind of more appointed positions than anything else. We've got an official on there, a couple coaches. So Silas serve. This is the last year Silas Blaine will be on there because he's done 2 terms. So we'll find a replacement for Silas. And then we got a new position opening on the track and field cross country. Lima Leader Charge had been a part of that, and she's going off. They had some nominees for Distinguished Service Awards, and then most of the meeting was discussion. We talked about some of the transfer rules study group. It's kind of an interesting situation in Oglala, Lakota County because it's one of the few countywide school systems we have where there's other schools within that. Lyman would have that with Lower Brule, I believe. Crow Creek would have it, I think, with Highmore or Chamberlain. But within the Oglala Lakota County School District, Lakota Tech is the public high school within that county. And then also within that county, you have Pine Ridge, which is a BIE school. You have Macpialuta, which is a private school, but also somewhat of a BIE grant school. I think it's technically a private school. You have Little Wound, which is a grant school. You have Crazy Horse, which is a grant school. So within our transfers, between school years, you're allowed to return home. A student can return home between school years, which is either where they live or where they started as a freshman. So in this circumstance only, every summer, any kid from Pine Ridge, Macpialuta, Little Wound, Crazy Horse, Ulrichs on the west side could basically get a free transfer to Lakota Tech because that's their home school district, that's the public district, and Oglala Lakota is a large land area, or Oglala Lakota County is a large land area. So it's sort of this quirk within our transfer system that we tried to look for a way through. There's not really a good way through it that we've found yet. So you could, any of those kids could return to Lakota Tech, but you can't be a resident of the Pine Ridge School District, Little Wound School District, because there's no land area. Their school district land area is the property that their school sits on within a public school district setting. So we've tried to work through that. I don't know that there's a way through it, but they want us to continue looking at that because the schools within there, they think it gives an advantage to Lakota Tech because anyone from any of those schools could go to Lakota Tech over the summer. And so look at that. Randy gave some updates on the All Nations Football Conference. Those championships are this weekend, or it's Friday. At the Dakota Dome.
South Dakota will be broadcasting. He's broadcasting them this year. I think we did last year too, but
3 and 7 or
4 and 7. 4 and 7.
Yeah, Friday. On Friday. Got an update on the Fall and Winter Lakota Nation Invitational Tournaments given by members of the committee.
Danny, Walking Eagles, member of the LNI board. Chuck Wilson's on that, Silas Blaine's on that. And then we had a discussion on, there's always some strife between those schools that we talked about because there's so many schools in that little pocket, and there's a lot of movement between those schools. And there's a perception amongst those schools of recruiting and just sort of how to work through that, how to talk through that. And we've seen more and more, particularly because there's a lot of middle schools too. And then there's kids almost like announcing where they're going to high school to play sports on social media, and it feels kind of like a transfer portal type of thing. And I don't know that there's any way around that, but just sort of ways to work through those conflicts and those feelings down there, and making sure that everything's above board and that they're following the same rules that everyone else is following down there. I don't think that there's a problem with it. There's some perceptions among the schools there of problems. I don't know what the problems are in reality through that. But just a discussion on that, and if there's anything we should or can be doing regarding it.
So that's kind of similar to what we go through with Lower Brule, except for there's many more options there kind of situation.
Yep. Yes, it'd be the same for you guys, for Lyman County and Lower Brule. It would be, and
you do have Crow Creek on our side, but that is a different district. That's not our district, so the Lower Brule.
Yeah, Crow Creek would be Crow Creek with Chamberlain and Highmore, I think.
There's just a lot more options potentially.
Right, because there's 5 high schools within that county, with one of them being public. And really, technically, the federal ones are also public. It's just a different public school system. Eagle Butte would have the same thing, and within the Eagle Butte School District, there's parts that are different. But where they have Takini, they have Topa, Tuspé Topa and Takini are in there. This is unique in that there's so many of them there, and you've got 3 high schools within a couple miles of Pine Ridge.
It's an interesting dynamic for the fact that in that dynamic too, but even in our dynamic, if a kid is in Lower Brule and something happens or they don't, they're immediately in our district, so we required to take them. But if they started school there, you'd have to do an open enrollment, even though it's in our district.
And then they'd have a sit-out period. And we've got a waiver process for some of those situations, but that doesn't fit everything. So, questions on that advisory committee? Okay, I think the next thing here was just sort of updates on some of these subcommittees. We met again with that Success Factor subcommittee. We're kind of stuck in the mud again with that. It's a big committee. I think there's 16 or 17 people on it. So what we've decided to do was to break that into a smaller group, a smaller subcommittee with a couple people per class, like a 5-6 person subcommittee, to come back to that group with a couple of options to look at to see if they want to forward anything back onto the board. So whether that's a process of success factor that moves people up, whether it's a process that allows people to petition down and remain eligible for the playoffs. I know, there's been some talk about what Montana uses for football and allowing, they look at roster sizes and wins, and there's sort of a formula that they go through. I think there's something we could adapt for us. People need to understand that Montana doesn't run all of their enrollments through that formula. They allow schools, Montana has 11-man, 8-man, and 6-man football. So if a school wants to opt down from 11-man to 8-man football, there's a form that they fill out, and it's, it looks at your enrollment. That's a certain percentage of how it weights it. It looks at your roster size as a function of the average roster size in your classification. There's a free and reduced lunch multiplier in there, which we already have, so we probably wouldn't need that. and it looks at your losses or your wins over the previous, and it averages out over 3 years, and then it adds that up, and if you're above a number, it's automatically approved. You are able to opt down. If it's above that number, it gets denied, but you can appeal it to their full board. What I've heard a desire for would be a process like that, but it would be for opting between classes in 11-man, from 11AA to 11A or 11A to 11B. So you'd have to have different forms for each of those. And it creates, particularly in our larger classes, it creates, as we're seeing right now in a situation, it creates, you get into 11AA, AAA, and you've got people moving. It creates big problems because there's smaller number of schools. For scheduling, it creates issues. So, is there a sweet spot in between there where you could throw a lifeline to a program that's drowning? And maybe, but that's what that smaller subcommittee will be looking at. I still don't think that there's it doesn't seem that there's a lot of wide support for forcing teams up. I know what we looked at was maybe most of the formulas that you see, they look back at the previous 3 years. Maybe we have a formula that looks at 6, 7, 8 years, so it's more sustained success rather than a group of kids that are coming through, and right as they get through your program, you'd be moved up a class. So maybe you're looking at more long-term success before you would be moved up. But
it is true that anybody can opt down. They're just not eligible for playoffs.
Correct. Well, where it gets tricky is football, because there's language. It basically says we set classifications. You decide if you want to be in the playoffs or not by playing in that classification. And then there's language regarding an 11-man to 9-man opt-down, where you can play a 9-man schedule if you're an 11-man school, but you're not eligible for the playoffs. Where there's not language, in a sort of a gray area, is if I want to opt from 11AA to 11A, and not going from 11A to 9-man, I want to, which I've always read as, well, yeah, you could do it, you're just not eligible for the playoffs because you're not playing in the classification that we would put you in. Where that gets us in a pickle is then, particularly those top 2 classes, scheduling. You end up with an odd number of teams, now you got to have a bye week, and they don't have a structure that allows a bye week. So then, how do you fix that?
We also don't have a deadline for that either.
Correct.
Which also makes things hard. If the school comes in July and says we want to go down a class, that makes that extremely difficult without a deadline or some sort of guidance in there as well.
Right. So I gave them through yesterday to vote on that, those subcommittees. I'll get that smaller committee together. We'll keep chugging along on it. We'll keep working. The other one there is, I know over the summer we talked about the wrestling duels, and I've got a committee together to look at the wrestling duels specifically. I got it on my, a couple different questions. I think there's a few things we need to figure out within the duels. Give me 1 second here so I can pull this up. The first one is, should we continue with them? Do we want to keep having them? Is there legitimate interest in it as a state event? Do your kids care about it the same way they care about the individual tournament? Does that change if we say the dual tournament is the team championship for wrestling, not the individual tournament? In most cases, yes, it does. Is there enough full squads and girls for us to have girls duels? I know that was a proposal last year, and we're waiting on that just to get some more data. And then the coaches themselves, they have to commit to wrestling through those wrestlebacks in the duels, or there's no point in having them. They have to commit to stop dodging due to seeding for regions or the state tournament. Or it can't be an expensive exhibition that we're calling a state championship. Currently it loses money for us, which isn't the end all be all. I mean, it's one of the, I think, it's one of 2 sports we have that we charge a gate for and lose money on. That one and gymnastics is because we rent a set of equipment for gymnastics. You know, at first they didn't want the coaches didn't want their weights counting towards their descent plan. They didn't want the matches counting towards their individual seating, and we said no. These aren't exhibitions; they have to count. So we've tried them. We've tried it in the middle, you know, within the individual tournament. We tried it at the end of the individual tournament. Now we've backed it up to 2 weeks before the state tournament. I mean, it's gone all right, but we really haven't found that sweet spot for how to do it. So if it's yes, and we're going to continue with the duels, then there's a couple of things we need to address. The qualification format for it, which is so convoluted right now, whether that's a region format or whether it's just straight up PowerPoints like we do everything else or whatever. We've got to change that. It's been a mess, and I don't want to keep going through that. The date of it, the format of it, and you know, if it's going to continue, it should be the team championship, and they have to agree to that for it to continue going on. No, we don't give team championships, 2 different team championships out at any other event. So, we've got those committee members identified. One of them's a teacher who can't meet till after school, and one of them's currently a football coach who has practice after school. So we're kind of waiting till football playoffs are done, and then we'll get that committee going. Questions on the dual subcommittee? Okay. The next one there is the NFHS section meeting. I had that back in late August, early September. That's every year. We've combined sections 4 and 5, so it's us, it's the Dakotas, Minnesota, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan. And it was in goes back and forth between sections every other year. It was in Chicago this year. Good event. Learned a lot of stuff. Everyone's going through the same things we are with private school, consternation, with yeah, you know, we're as much as we're different, we're more alike when you start comparing between states. So next year that meeting is here in South Dakota, so we'll be hosting it as a state. I think the last time we did that was my 2nd year in the office. Looks right now like we're going to host it in Rapid City is where we're going to host it. A number of them haven't seen the Black Hills or haven't been to Mount Rushmore or the Badlands, so I'll be leaning on Jordan a little bit to give me some ideas for where to take them to eat, where to stay at, things like that. So looking forward to that. It's a great group. It's a good time to have. You get 2 days and you sit around kind of like this, and it's the people that have my job in our surrounding states. And it's just kind of a 2-day long round table where you pass ideas off each other. And what do you guys do for this? What do you guys do for this? And it's one of the most beneficial meetings I have every year, I think. So appreciate being able to attend that. Last thing I have here, you scroll down to be just our goal update. Our new goals for the year. Some of them carried over, some of them started. We got that sportsmanship initiative. We're continuing to work through that. Same with coach recruitment. We've got to get moving on that. We haven't done a lot with it yet, but we need to. What we want to do is seek out input from membership on what we can do and develop ideas from that feedback. Maybe work with the High School Coaches Association, but they're going through a transition right now as well. So scrolling down, we got the success factor. Talked about that already, where we're at with it. You know, we're in the middle of reviewing what other states do, getting something in place to see if there's anything we want to bring forward. And we present those to the board of directors, and you know, eventually, if anything gets through, that would be a constitutional amendments vote of the membership. Scroll down, Ryan. The value develop initiatives highlighting the value of state high school associations. We've been doing some work on that, implementing social media posts. I shared with you all here, we've got this fact sheet that we put together concerning the association, just sort of what it is that we do, what's the value of an association, talking about, we've been around for 120 years, got 32,000 participants, almost 800 postseason events or contests that we oversee and organize every year, and what the purpose of what we do is, and how that involvement leads to higher GPAs, fewer absences from school, fewer discipline issues, higher graduation rates, lower risk of drug use, alcohol use, and also just sort of giving some perspective on that. There's over 8 million student athletes that participate in high school sports every year, and 7% of those kids go on to play collegiate sports. 2% of them earn athletic scholarships. So we got to make sure we're doing it for all of our kids, but there's 91% of those kids where this is it. So we've shared this to the schools, asked them if they're able to print this out. We've talked about maybe having some posters made up of this and sending them out to the schools to post up around their athletic facilities. Just sort of getting our story out there. How do we differ from pay-for-play sports, and how do we differ from club programs? What is it that education-based athletics offers that club sports doesn't? So then we've been joining up with that Protect the Purpose campaign with the NFHS, sharing their social media posts. I've got some that, just more pertaining to us that we want to get out there. It's just a matter of finding them. I'm not a social media whiz, but getting them put together and getting some stuff out there. Just trying to tell our story, making sure people understand the value of what we do.
Do you think SDPB would partner with us and do some sort of little story that they would maybe run during state events?
Yes, and I think during state football, I'm slated to do a segment with them at one of the halftimes talking about this, just completely on the value of associations. We did talk with them about the potential of doing some sort of, like the Tales from the Gridiron type thing, or those little videos that they make. And then maybe reaching out to some former high school South Dakotans, maybe Mason McCormick or Tucker Kraft or Ray Zabel or someone, just to get some videos out there of what high school sports meant to them. And, Mason and Gray are in the middle of it. Tucker unfortunately just got hurt the other day, but we
had the WNBA finals was coached by two South
Becky
Dakotans.
Hammond and Nate Tibbetts. There's a lot of great stories out there. Trying to reach out to some of those South Dakotans and see if they'd make a video that maybe we could put that on the video board during a state tournament. What high school sports meant to them.
Jared Miller was just at Pentagon with Murray.
Oh, Mike Miller was?
Jared.
Oh, Jared.
Thursday.
Yeah. So see what we can do. Some of them are harder to get a hold of than others.
Back on the coaches piece, is there a model that we had in the reps? I remember when Joe around the colleges or working with I know this is in the dark ages, but I actually have a coaching endorsement. Like when I went to get my undergrad, there was such a thing as a coaching endorsement, but talking to the education colleges about, the hard part for schools is we are looking for anybody in the pool. You can't be as...
Unfortunately, what I've noticed is it seems like the colleges are almost getting away from coaching endorsements because we don't require it. You don't have to have a coaching endorsement to coach for us. So they're saying, well, what's the point? I know we've met. I've gone and met with coaching classes at SDSU. I don't know. I know Joe had done it at USD in the past, where we met with some collegiate classes about coaching.
And I talked with them. They were a kinesiology sport management freshman group, and I talked with them, and I talked about officiating, but also about coaching and even athletic administration.
Yeah. I know that I think it's Iowa girls. They have a program
that they make available to their coaches, and it's sort of a free program, but it walks through it kind of helps young coaches and walks through, here's how you build a good culture within a team, with your athletes or your participants, with your parents, with your administration, sort of with people who are involved in it, to try to keep them around, to say, here's some things you can do to build a strong culture, to make it a better experience for you and for everybody else. So maybe there's some things like that we can do. Yeah, but it gets a little tricky. And then the last one there is those initiatives concerning AD retention. We want to seek out that input and really work with the SDHSAA. They have a mentorship program in place already, but to see if there's anything we can do to strengthen that program or add to it. Because we do have, it's about 25 to 30% AD turnover every year within the association. It's a high burnout job, long hours, high hours, lots of stress, and it's a tough gig. So if there's things we can do to prop ADs up and get that turnover rate down more and keep people around. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's the same schools. So it's not this 25% of the schools changing over. It's within that 30% turnover, there's a percentage where it's new ADs every year. And that's really hard to get a program going when you're changing ADs every year or 2 years. So, questions on the board goals? Good. Okay, the last couple of things we have there would be a foundation report, the Activities Association foundation report. I know there's been some grant requests. We did a grant to get a volleyball officials observation, or maybe 8. That went through.
Okay, it's going again.
But the link might be broken again.
I'll go check with there.
Yeah, go check with Aaron. I'll just finish this up just because of talking about that. But so appreciate the foundation. Appreciate when they make those distributions. It's 3 members from our board. It's 3 members from the foundation board, and then I'm a non-voting member of that. Ex officio. Thank you. Member of those committees, and they've done a good job. They're chugging right along. So there's a grant request form on our website if anyone's ever interested in submitting grants for our foundation for funding.
And now would be the time to put the plug in for if you would like to make a donation to the foundation. Those are always accepted.
And they've done a great job of getting match partners. So I think last year they had 10 to 12 match partners. So so if you're donating $1, it's being matched 12 times. And for every $100 that's donated, there's $1,200 coming into it. So, and all of that is up to $5,000 for each of those match partners. So that $5,000 could turn into $60,000 really easily. So end of year stuff, if you're thinking about donations, give a thought to the foundation. Take just a second here to make sure.
Are you doing the SDHSAA report or?
Sure. Yeah, you can. Let's see if it's still going here.
Chad says it's up and he can hear everything.
But he's on the Zoom.
Oh, sorry.
Not on the listen line.
Aaron's at lunch.
I'd say how about we do this? Let's do the SDHSAA report.
Yeah.
And then we won't do any of the action items. We can maybe take our break for lunch after that, and then do the action items once we know for sure that the link is on. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
I think Casey's
gonna Casey, you doing the SDHSAA?
No, he's gonna jump on and see if the live mic
Oh,
works.
gotcha.
Oh, see if you can hear it.
Yeah, with the SDHSAA, not a lot to report on. We did create a board of directors for the SDHSAA, and we're going to look to hire some staff and just kind of reorganize that organization. Been a lot of really good discussions. I've found myself chairing that board as well, as I can't say no to anything. So, yeah, well, a lot of work to be done, putting in policies and procedures and those sorts of things. So, but it's going really well. So, one other question that I had was in regards to advisories. I was putting the advisories on for our sports, and I didn't see any dates listed for any fine arts advisories. Or those? When do those typically get set?
Well, but now that we do those prior to the AD meeting, like last year it was just kind of a scramble to get things squeezed in, like between January and February. So that's when I'll get them all scheduled for is January and February. Once I know them, we'll get them posted on the website.
I think now maybe we could recognize longtime SDHSAA. Was he the chair of that or president?
It's executive director.
Steve Burseth, who passed last month. So maybe take a moment for Steve. If there's anything you want to add on that, or
no,
I know
I've known Steve. A lot of us have known Steve for a long time. Steve gave me my first coaching job in Brookings and was my AD when I coached there. It's not working. It's not working.
There's no video.
I bought it this room.
Steve Martin said it's working too.
Okay. Test. Yeah. Okay, so, no, Steve Burseth unfortunately passed away. He was a longtime AD at Brookings. Did a ton with the SDHSAA, particularly in regards to professional development. Really has helped establish the LTC process, and I think our athletic or activity associate or the SDHSAA does a fantastic job on professional development and getting courses for athletic directors, getting additional education for athletic directors, and Steve was a big part of building up what that's become. So want to send our thoughts and condolences to Steve's family and friends and family, and he'll be missed.
All right, since the live stream is back up, we're good. Let's just keep going on items then, if we're all right, continuing there.
Perfect.
So we're on item number 7, second reading on policy changes regarding spectators entering the playing area prior to awards.
Okay, so we started talking about this at our July meeting. Essentially, our current policy states that if there's a court storming, for lack of a better term. So if there's a court storming, the offending team will not be recognized by the public address announcer. Medals and trophies will be awarded to school personnel following the awards ceremony. And in looking at that, and we've had a couple instances of it to where we've just sort of cleared the court and kept going. Okay. But then you get into an issue of you got a policy, you didn't follow it. Some concerns that, well, the kids on the court didn't do anything. Why are you punishing them for that? It's, the kids ran on the court. So the first reading we did was essentially to say any fans who enter the playing area prior to the awarding of medals are removed immediately from the facility, so they're kicked out. And then it's a $1,000 fine to the school payable to the opposing team. Any physical altercations between fans and players will be referred to security/law enforcement. No awards or trophies will be handed out until the floor is cleared. And that's kind of the crux of it. The physical altercations is where our concerns with this are. We're not trying to be fun haters. We're not saying we don't want kids to have fun. But there's a lot of things that can go wrong in that situation. People could run into another player. There could be altercations. There could be things said, inappropriate things said. And it's just not a great situation. So that's what we had for a first reading. You know, immediately after that came out, we had a couple bars and grills volunteering to pay that fine for any school that did it, which kind of defeats the purpose. And our purpose is to keep the kids off the court. Again, not to be fun haters, but to make sure that there's no safety issues, there's no altercations, things like that. So
my comment to that would be that would fall on the integrity of the school and the administrators to not just allow it to happen because some bar and grill chose to pay it.
So the other option here would be just to remove the monetary section of it, remove the fine, and just say fans are expected to remain off the playing floor until after the awarding. Any fans who go on the court, they're removed from the court, they're removed from the premises. Any physical altercations are still referred to law enforcement or security, and we're not doing anything until the floor is cleared. We're not awarding any trophies out until the floor is cleared. Takes the $1,000 part of it out of there. I mean, to get rid of the go ahead and, okay, well, if I pay $1,000, that's just permission to do it, which is not what we're trying to get at here. And option 3 would be, you know, to make more changes to it. Any other recommendations that you have it as a first reading and then do a second reading at our January board meeting. In most facilities, for the championships, there's physical barriers, so it's not as much of an issue. But Northern State for State Bs, some you know, Huron, Watertown, Spearfish, Brookings for basketball, there's not those barricades in front of them. So again, it's not a big occurrence. I think 99% of the times our administrators are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and sometimes, you know, there might be times where you just can't stop it as an administrator too. So I guess I'm open to thoughts on this.
I like the edits, I like the changes, the ideas of the changes because of recognizing the kids. And this might not be the whole thing. Do we need to add verbiage on here that talks about this is a SODAC 16 event and above?
Yeah.
Because that's the interpretation, right? It would be a SODAC 16 event we're supposed to have before too, right?
Yes.
Or any postseason.
Yeah, any postseason event. They're supposed to stay off the floor. We don't have any direct control over it, other than at state events, because we're not there physically, unless we just happen to be at one watching.
So, maybe.
But technically, this is for all postseason events, is what it would.
I think the only thing that I would like to see, just my opinion, is a statement that this is a responsibility of the administration from the schools participating, just to emphasize that. We'll do the best we can at state events, but state events need help. And I just use the example as we're at SODAC 16 last year, and we know the rules, and we made very clear that we're not storming the court. And if we wouldn't have, my kids would have stormed the court. They just would have. And I just think that if we make the onus of the fact that that's really an administrator's responsibility, I don't know. I guess I don't go to state tournaments very often, but when I was there, I felt like it was my responsibility to make sure my kids and my crowd behaved. It wasn't, I'm at the state tournament now. That's the venue's job. So, that's just my opinion. But otherwise, I like that.
Yeah. Or we had some language in there along the lines of, blatant disregard of this policy by schools. The board reserves the right to fine schools who blatantly disregard.
I mean, I think if you try and you literally ran over, I get it. But I just think we can make sure that we are.
But if you're sitting there going, yeah, get on the court, and you're not even trying, I think it's something the board could take a look at and say, no.
Yeah. And I'm also the guy that doesn't want to policy us in the corners because we all know what that can happen like too.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we want to keep people off the court because there's legitimate safety concerns with it.
Correct. That's why it's a big deal in the NCAA right now. I mean, that's a huge thing.
Well, and unfortunately,
They're
in
fining
NCAA, the
$50,000.
ADs have been paying the fines for their kids taking down the goalposts. So that's their.
And a big thing in basketball at the NCAA level of courts being stormed just in regular play.
The question I have is, does the fine actually deter it any more than not having the fine? Because
As I looked at
I'm
it,
just asking.
To me personally, as I looked at it and thought about it more, it almost serves as a permission slip. Okay, we're going to do this and just pay the $1,000 or the $5,000 or whatever.
I'm with Jeff and you a little bit. I guess Jeff didn't express his opinion, but if I'm the school administrator saying we're not doing it, I have my kids where they need to be, but somebody comes and says, go do it. It's almost undermining the school administrators in a way.
Yeah.
Not the policy itself, but if I got my kids in check and I'm saying they won't, but somebody comes up and says that
here's $1,000,
here's
go.
$1,000, go. Yeah. So I'm agreeing that maybe the fine is not something that you want to put in there.
Yeah, I like option 2, and I would like verbiage added into it's school district, whether it's administration, supervisors, however you want to word it, because not every district has the amount of supervisors as, we have more than Frederick Heckler does, right? So, but you guys have one. Sorry, Frederick. Sorry. That was back when I was playing. But, and I like the blatant disregard of just go. The board reserves the right to consequate however we feel fit.
So I could come back for a second reading with language in there regarding spelling out that's the responsibility of the school administration, and the board reserving the right for blatant disregard of it.
A fine up to a certain
to look
amount.
at penalties. Yeah.
Does the association does it have the mechanism now to fine schools? I mean,
yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because you're fined for not doing rules tests. Like there's different
Or
smaller
for violations
fines in
of
there,
in and out of season rules, there's fine. We don't do it very much. Our goal is to not have any fines. We're not trying to use it as a revenue source.
Do we want to corner ourselves into it has to be monetary, or is it? Can there be?
Well,
just
that's
could
what
be sanctions or
that's what I would say.
fines
The board
or sanctions.
Yeah.
The board reserves the right to impose penalties for blatant disregard of this policy.
Because it was put in for a reason. Like I can't describe the particular incident, but I remember being supportive at the time of doing something because of the nature of it was at a state basketball tournament, and there was a real issue with safety between players, fans, probably the officials at the time, and so it was, it's probably 20 years old, I bet.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I'll come with the second reading in January with some of those things
So
added.
do we have some consensus around what Jordan mentioned there at the end, or do we have a motion on anything?
Yeah, we would we'd do a motion. Well, I don't know if we need a motion for a first reading.
I was still calling the question if somebody really wanted to support the actual second reading.
Oh, sure, I got you.
I think
So we're kind of coalesced around the.
Do we need a motion or no?
No.
Okay.
No. I was asking for a motion in case somebody wanted. The second reading was the $1,000 fine. So if there was anybody who wanted to make that motion, now would be your time to do that. Otherwise, to me, the direction is to go back, bring it back in January as a second reading with the language.
Yeah, with the
When would
additions
this
about.
go into effect? Would it go into effect in our
You'd say
winter-
immediately for the winter
in our
championships.
winter championships? Okay.
Yep.
I just want the message to still be that we don't want that.
Right. We're not saying it's okay to
It's
storm
not
the
okay
court.
now. We don't want that, but frankly, administration, be proactive, and if it's before you go to state tournament, you talk to your kids about not storming the court. I don't care what happens, and be present. So when at the end of the game, you're a visible person, not sitting in the top row, hoping they listen to you.
Well, I
We've
know.
never not let a kid out there at a volleyball, basketball. I mean, they get to go eventually. They're just not right after the game. You know.
Due to, I'll call it friends I have around the state, I do know that some of that language has been being read at volleyball regions.
Oh, yeah, I've heard it a lot.
You know, coming up.
It is in the postseason.
Yes.
So I mean, it's typically read at.
We'd have to change, what we put out for them to read in regards to that, because it wouldn't be the case anymore.
Do we want to set sanctions in there, or do we want
I
to
think
come
we
back
leave it open.
and come back here and make a decision per case?
Yeah.
Each one probably will be a little bit different.
Well, like you said, if the admin makes an attempt and there's just too many kids to stop, which would be my situation.
Yeah.
Most of them would listen, but I can't stop 10 kids who physically run on the court.
You've been stampeded in here.
Yeah. I mean, that's different than an admin sitting at the top and just letting it go.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right. That's the thing is if we're proactive and we set it, you're going to curb it somewhat, Mm-hmm. It won't be 100% success rate as it might have wanted to been before.
Yeah. I'm good with that then.
And hopefully with you, sometimes the bigger venues that you have, those barriers are in place, for
in
many
basketball,
of them, except for
really not. That's the hard part.
I should say state events.
Yeah, state events.
Yeah, you might have that problem in a SODAC game or something like that.
At the Denny and at the Monument, like at the Monument, they're raised up, and there's a fence.
I guess the Danny, you are on the floor though, aren't you?
No, they don't have them on the floor anymore. They're off to the sides and up. So those hockey boards are up.
Well, like for us,
correct.
We just don't have enough room between
No.
the court and the bleachers.
Right.
To even just putting a physical barrier in there would be somewhat safety more for the players or the officials.
Spearfish
like
last year, there was one of those.
Yeah, they had one of the
movie theater
ticket things, and
it got plowed over.
Stanchion.
Yeah.
I think also too, last thing I'll say about this is it shouldn't happen even at non-state events either. You know what I mean? Like if people are, and I don't know if anyone's letting kids storm the court during a regular season contest, but it shouldn't happen there either for all the reasons we're talking about, the safety of the kids and the officials and coaches and everything. I think that just echoing and furthering what Chris has been saying about getting that word out there, that it shouldn't happen at any event.
Keep going. She's coming back with it.
All right, we added 7.5.
We might be able to just get through to the.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to shoot for now. 7.5, the request from Sioux Falls Stevens.
Rapid City.
Sioux Falls Stevens. Casey, you added them, didn't you? Did you guys grow enough that you just added a new high school already this year?
Tariffs, they.
How about let's get the letter that we'll work on the Sioux Falls Stevens one in January. Let's try the Rapid City Stevens request.
All right, so we receive this request every year from the Rapid City schools based on a longstanding OCR ruling where they're required to have tryouts in team sports. Is that correct?
Yes.
Prior to the season. So last April, we granted them that, and it was those 3 days. It was Friday, Saturday, Monday. Essentially, it was the Friday, Saturday of state volleyball, and then the Monday following state volleyball for girls and boys basketball tryouts. The request here from Stevens, due to some scheduling conflicts or things that coaches or parents or others have, is to back those dates up to move it from Friday, Saturday, Monday to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week prior. They're not adding any days, they're just shifting them back. It's very clear with him that this means that there's nothing going on Saturday. This also means that there's no makeup days for you. Like if you have kids that are in state volleyball and didn't get a chance to do it, you don't have that Monday as a makeup day for tryouts. Or boys basketball players who couldn't come to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, You're gonna have to schedule a makeup tryout with them once the actual season starts because you don't have any days left.
You said this was agreed to back in April.
Thursday, if Friday, Saturday, Monday was agreed to. They're just asking to shift their dates back.
So being from a small school and not even knowing what it's like to have tryouts, haven't these families known since April that these are the tryout dates? And now, literally a week or 2 weeks before, they want to move the goalposts? They all knew these dates were set. Like, if it's an important thing and priority, then you make sure you're available that Saturday.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
They were approved in April of 25.
I'll add in that the Rapid City School District, not the Sioux Falls School District, takes the week of Thanksgiving. The kids have the whole week of Thanksgiving off. So there are some families that probably have scheduled vacations, what have you. But as Mr. Koster said, this has historically been our weekend that we do our tryouts. That's all I'll say.
When do these tryouts take place in the day? What time of day? Is it an all-day thing? Is it an afternoon?
So our kids are required to do a minimum of 3 2-hour sessions.
Each kid.
Each kid has to be provided a minimum of 3 2-hour sessions. And then we've got a rubric that each sport follows. We hire outside evaluators to come in and help with the process.
And that's all part of the OCR settlement?
And that's all part of the OCR complaint that took place back in the early 2000s.
So if there's a girl who's in the state volleyball tournament and wants to try out, how does that happen?
They'd have to offer an alternative tryout process and dates for.
Because they already would miss Friday and Saturday.
Yep.
But now it would be
They would
all of it.
They'd miss all of it because except because it's in. Well,
but right now they're setting aside Monday, and I would guess that they're probably doing a lot of their boys on Monday. They get their girls done Friday, Saturday, because the girls' season starts that Monday.
So
they can start practice.
What we've kind of done is we try to get it done on Friday, Saturday. We meaning Central, because we can go like we can have a 2-a-day. Go Friday morning, Friday after school, get that third tryout date done on Saturday. And then we typically let the kids know who made or didn't make the team Saturday afternoon. And then we've kind of held that Monday date as just an extra day. The girls' season actually starts on that Monday. That's the first day of practice for the girls. So a lot of times, Ryan, that's what those kids that were in volleyball, their tryouts will just be during that first week of practice.
so they're not asking for more time. Just adjusting
shifting
the
the
date, so 3 days, but moving them
From Friday, Saturday, Monday to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Since I've never been a part of this before, I'm just going to throw out some that's maybe irrelevant or a little bit of roll your eyes at, but instead of doing this every year, if it's applicable potentially for other schools, could we just change that date? Let's say Harrisburg needs to have tryouts.
This is a specific Office of Civil Rights.
Yes. Okay. So if we just
Otherwise,
I think the
everybody else
concern
has
would be-
everybody else like we do make cuts.
Yes.
And we have to do it within the
participation period.
Yes.
And I'll add in, our coaches aren't allowed to coach during the tryouts. They give kids drills. They sit in the seats.
It's a
and they watch.
scorecard, right? Like
So they're not having practice. They're literally sitting there watching kids.
Yeah, so
play
it's
basketball or volleyball.
specific to a lawsuit that was. And then
I've been there for it's quite a process. I've been there for just to see how it works.
So setting it for everybody. I mean,
yep.
And the concern to me would be, everyone's going to say, well, we have tryouts, and it's just an extra 3 days of practice.
So any other I don't have a motion yet, one way or the other on this. Are there any other clarifying questions, or else I would entertain a motion either to either approve this switch or to not approve.
I would make a motion to approve the request.
I have a motion from Long to approve.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Clanton. Now, other discussion on this.
I guess I don't know all the ins and outs, but I think you give a school the autonomy over how to, their scheduling, I guess. I know we set the dates, but that's where I'm at, I guess.
If not approved, does the district get sued?
No, they would just have to conduct their tryouts on Friday, Saturday, Monday.
And so basically lose practice days.
Which is what?
That's what they're doing.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, we have to have this process. It's not it's not an option.
So if a kid is sick on these days, do they get tryout times besides that? You just have to give up practice time.
Yeah.
The kid doesn't go to practice, they go to an evaluation.
Yep.
And it's held separate from practice.
Or we will conduct it throughout the practice and then rehire the outside.
So there is a world where the people who have conflicts with the dates could be made up versus having to shift everything that's been agreed upon. I mean, obviously, I'm not asking you to speak for Stevens.
Yeah, and that's what
either Rapid City or Sioux Falls.
And is this request just for this year, or is this permanently moving forward to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? So after this
They
year,
have to
it goes-
make the request every year.
This year, they requested every year.
Oh.
And they request
So it would
the
only
dates.
apply. It would only. So
They
we
requested
already
the dates.
approved Friday, Saturday, Monday.
And they have to do it for volleyball. They do it for volleyball also.
That was it for fall.
I think that's why I'm not a fan of it, is because no matter what you do, the kids are gonna have the opportunity to do whatever. They requested this date, we approved this date, and now because some kids might have other things going on Saturday, they're trying to move. Maybe I'm just being a Debbie Downer.
No, I get that, but my point is, I think we let schools run their own deal, I guess. I don't know, that's how I view it. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not for us. I mean, I know we have to approve the dates, but they're gonna know.
And I'm assuming
the kids better than we are.
Per his kind of some of Billy's comments, I'm assuming the Rapid City School District doesn't necessarily care one way or the other than that you follow the compliance of the civil rights lawsuit, meaning that in other ways, you and Stevens don't have to match. As long as you follow district policy. Correct. And if there is a judgment like this.
And the reason we ask for the dates is because it's prior to the official start date.
There's nothing special about Friday, Saturday,
Yeah, it's just prior to so we don't have to take away practice time to conduct our tryouts. Whereas everybody else is starting practice on Monday,
right.
We would have to lose 2 to 3 days of practice.
Any other comments, or are we ready to vote? Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve this request to change the dates. So all those in favor of approving this request, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Did you vote? It's like a 1 nay. 5-1? Yep. Okay, motion passes with Costers opposing. Item number 8, classified staff policy amendment.
Administrative assistant staff. Okay. This is for administrative assistant staff. Our executive staff, after 7 years, it goes to 20 days or 160 hours, and I don't know why that's different. I had wanted to make that the same, to bump the classified staff from 18 to 20 days and 144 to 160 hours after that 7 years of service to match what the executive staff is getting. I think it's right to do it. At the moment, it would only impact one employee.
Are the contract days the same?
Contract days are the same, yes. So our recommendation would be to approve this to match it.
I'll move to approve.
Rollinger, second.
Motion by Bauer, second by Rollinger. Other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor of the classified staff policy amendment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Change format to the student council convention.
I can start this off here if you want. So this would be to consider the format change to the State Student Council Convention. Right now, it's almost 2 conventions that go on. There's the high school one that we run, and then there's a middle school one that is run by a middle school committee. And I'll let Brooks explain it better.
Yeah, so we've been doing this for, I want to say maybe between 15 and 20 years. The middle school has their convention. They completely separate from what we do. They stay upstairs, except we invite them in for our speaker sessions for the speakers that we hire. Their activity night is completely different. The women who have been running that for the past few years decided to step down, and no one is willing to take over running that. So what I'd like to do is to formally say we will allow students in grades 7 through 12 to attend the State Student Council Convention. This will accommodate a lot of our smaller schools whose student councils are grades 6 through 12. So we would only be excluding the 6th graders from those schools. Larger schools that are still interested in bringing their middle schools, we would have to sort out how we would want to do that if we still allow them to come or not. But I would feel more comfortable saying that it would be you can bring middle school students as long as they are part of your high school student council, similar to how we do things in other fine art activities where we allow 7th and 8th graders to participate in speech and debate events. And also All-State Chorus, we allow 8th graders to come to that. As far as the activities night, we would still keep that separate, and we would have advisors who would be responsible for managing those students. They would be away from the high school kids. We don't want
the activities night. It's like a dance.
Yeah, we do a dance. We do games. We do multiple different things. And so we would have the middle school separated for that. We don't want high school kids to middle school kids. Just liability issues. The biggest change on the school side would be the fees charged, because right now the middle school convention fees were quite a bit less than the high school fees. Individual registration fees at the high school level is $55. At the middle school level, it was $25. So that would be the biggest change that our schools would see, is that they would have a bump of $30 per middle school student.
Are the middle school students getting the same?
It's all the same stuff except for the dance.
They're getting all the same information and everything as a high school kid would get?
Yes. Okay. Yep. They would join us for all workshop sessions that we do. They would be in with us for our formal banquet and the lunch that we provide as well. The only time we would separate them is for the first night activities, the last couple of hours of that.
Are you saying you wouldn't allow it if it was a separate middle school student council?
So we don't allow, like, my concern is how is a middle school advisor going to get into our website and register when they're not a member school?
How are they doing it now?
A paper form.
Oh,
yeah. What do you do with the 7th and 8th graders during the activity night?
Like I said, we'd have a separate area for them upstairs at the monument with rooms, and we'll have those advisors, a couple advisors, several advisors in charge of
organizing games and a dance and different things for them.
So if there was 7-12 advisor, you'll divvy them up, some
Yeah,
upstairs, some downstairs?
Yep, and I always assign every advisor who comes different workstations for that activities night. Just manning doors and making sure the kids are behaving in the dance.
But a separate middle school could attend.
I don't know that we would want to allow that.
I think what you're getting at is if you're in a district that's got a middle school that's separate, like Harrisburg's got a middle school. You're welcome.
Sioux Falls.
It's okay.
Sioux Falls Stevens.
Lincoln County.
They would not be coming because they're a middle school only school.
Correct. So what I would like to see is that we word this similar to how we do the other fine art activities, where we say we will allow 7th and 8th graders to participate as long as they are an active member in your high school fine art group, whatever that might get you.
So if your high school student council includes representatives
in the middle school,
in 7th and 8th grade,
Bring all of them.
they can
They
come
can
with.
still bring them, yeah.
But if your middle school student council is a completely separate entity,
You can't come?
So I'll use Lyman as an example. We have a middle school student council and a high school student council. Since those middle school students are not part of the high school student council, they wouldn't be eligible to go. Which I am fine with that arrangement. But if we had just one big student council in Lyman, which we don't have, I'll be honest, if we have a student council that contained high school kids and middle school kids in the one body, they could attend.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
So you're treating it like as if I'm a 7th grader and I make the team in cross country. I can go to the state meet, but we don't run a state middle school meet, so therefore that doesn't happen.
Correct.
You're essentially, so there is a cut then.
Yeah.
Because currently Watertown middle school students could go to the middle school.
Correct.
But now they
Now
won't
that-
be
that
able to
one
because
won't
we have
exist.
two different.
Yeah.
Okay.
A big.
I just want to make sure I was understanding that there is a cut to this of who gets to go.
It would, yeah,
Okay.
it would be.
I don't like the idea of taking opportunities away from high school kids, I guess. What's the rationale for doing that, I guess?
How are they gonna register through our site and, because.
How do they register now? Is it through bound? Paper?
Yeah, right now it's just.
Is there a bound registration we could do?
The high school has a bound registration.
So our currently we have middle school kids that run cross country that register through bound, right? We've got middle school kids registering
through your high school coach.
But your coach.
Sure.
The deal, what you're saying is, like I'll say in Sioux Falls, Rapid City, and Harrisburg, where you have multiple middle schools, they aren't, well, Harrisburg, they would be under one high school, but not necessarily, meaning you could register a middle school if you had to, unbound, right? Or not, because they're not a school.
You could put them in our, but
You
they'd
could
have
just
to be
put
on
them in
our
your high
roster.
school.
I mean, I don't know if a registration problem is a reason to eliminate,
That's what I was gonna say.
I guess.
The Active Association has ran the middle school one before, it never has. The standalone middle school one.
It's a standalone middle school.
We've done the registration for it.
Yeah, we simply posted the registration on our website. I sent those all off to the person running the middle school thing.
But they don't want to do it anymore.
They're done.
Yeah.
And nobody's willing.
So the one the middle school went to in the past, standalone middle schools, no longer exists.
Correct.
And we are basically taking over middle schoolers that are involved in student councils, but they're involved in the school-wide student council, not just the middle school one.
Correct.
So we haven't taken anything away from middle schoolers because it wasn't the activity association in the first place.
Correct. I mean,
Except the registration part.
Correct. Okay. And I will say, we are the High School Activities Association.
Agreed. Yep.
And so, I understand it's not the greatest for the middle school kids and those middle schools that have traditionally come. But when they don't have leadership willing to step up to do that,
at least we are willing to consider saying, if you're in one of those schools that has 7th and 8th graders who have